sixths, and I want to add it to 1/15. If I want to add it to 1/15, I've got 5/6 plus 1/15. The denominators are not the same, but they need to be the same. I need to make 6 and 15 into the same common denominator. How we're going to do this is 6 can be written in prime factors. Remember the prime factorization I told you about. 6 can be rewritten as 2 times 3. 15 can be written in prime factors, which would be 3 times 5. So you are going to have to use 2, you're going to have to use 3, and you're going to have to use 5. You have to use all of the factors. So you've got 2 times 3 times 5. In other words, you get 30. 30 is a common denominator between 6 and 15. I did that by breaking each of those numbers down to their prime factors and then using the proper factors. Now I have to rewrite this so you can see it. My common denominator then is going to be 30. Now we play a little game, how did I get there? And I was using 5/6 and adding it to 1/15. Okay, I want my new denominator to look like 30. Thinking of through multiplication, how do I get 6 to become a 30? I have to multiply it by 5. If this gets multiplied by 5, then the numerator also gets multiplied by 5, so that we make the same adjustment both in numerator and in denominator. So if I took 6 times 5 and got 30, then I take 5 times 5 and I get 25, and there is my new numerator for this first fraction. Now I look at the second fraction from 15 to 30. I play how did I get there? How did I get from a 15 to 30? I have to multiply by 2. And if I multiply the denominator by 2, I must multiply the numerator by 2. The new denominator was 30. The new numerator is 2. Now I have 25 plus 2 over 30. So my final answer, and I'm just out of room, so I'm going to add these together here, is 27/30. Now, that may not be in lowest terms. You may be able to reduce both of those and write them in their lowest terms, which in this case, 27 could be rewritten as 27 can be rewritten as 3 times 3 times 3. 30 can be rewritten as 3 times 2 times 5. And we can kind of see what's going to cancel there. So in the numerator now, I have 9, and in the denominator I have 10. 9/10 is my final answer. So you can see that they're very multi-step. And I'm really sorry about the glare that's cutting right through there. I'm not exactly sure how to correct that. I'll try to avoid writing on that part of the board. So we found out how to find a common denominator, how to change each fraction to have that common denominator, add the numerator, but when I'm done, asking myself, am I in lowest terms? Is this the simplest form of this fraction there can be? The only way to know that is to write it, each of the terms, each of the numbers, the numerator and the denominator, out into prime factors and see if anything will cancel. And in this case it did, so we got a final fraction of 9/10. Okay, there's only one other example that you really need to know in order to do the homework, and that is, hopefully this is review. Hopefully you've done a lot of fraction work before. I don't want anyone to panic if you haven't. If you have not, we will go over and over this in class, but hopefully you will. If we want to change the fraction 2/3 to be a fraction that has a denominator of 12. How do we do this? Well, we kind of play our little game, how do I get there again? We look at the denominators. We went from 3 to 12. How did I get to 12? Well, I must have multiplied that denominator by 4. 3 times 4 will give me 12. Remember, we always change by multiplication. If I did that to the denominator, I must do that to the numerator, so I'm going to take 2 times 4 as well and get 8. And we find out that 2/3 is the exact same fraction as 8 twelfths. If you have 2/3 of a pile of M&Ms, you have 8 twelfths of that pile of M&Ms. So you'll have to do that skill as well. Now, if you are working with mixed numbers, remember mixed numbers have a whole part and a fraction. Let's say you are doing 5 1/2 and you're wanting to add that to 2 1/3. Here's where you have to start putting some of these skills together into more than, to get to the end of this problem, you'll have to put more than one skill together. First, we have to change these mixed numbers into improper fractions. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 plus 1 is 11. 11 halves. I can check that quickly. 2 goes into 11 5 times, and I have 1/2 left over. I am now going to change this mixed number into an improper fraction. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. I have 7/3. Now, that's great. I've changed them into improper fractions, but now I notice that I have two different denominators, and I must have a common denominator in order to add these. So I'm going to have to get a common denominator. Well, they're already in prime factors, so we can't break them down anymore. So I must use this factor, and we're going to find out that my new denominator will be 6. 2 times the 3 will be 6. And we play, how did I get there? How did I get from 2 to 6? I had to multiply that by 3. If I did that to the denominator, I must do it to the numerator. 11 times 3 is 33. Then I look at this fraction. How did I get from 3 to 6? I had to multiply this by 2. If I multiply that by 2, I multiply the numerator by 2, and I get 7 times 2 is 14. So now I have 33 plus 14 over 6. And that, when I add that together, will be 47 over 6. At this point, we're just going to leave the answer like that as an improper fraction where the numerator is greater than the denominator. And that's perfectly fine. Please do not use your calculators on any of this fraction work. We need to learn to do small numbers in our heads, and it's just way too early to go grabbing for a calculator yet. Let's train our brains to do and to run through all these rules ourselves. It'll really help you later in the long run. Okay, you are ready now to do page 55, problems 1 through 19. I realize you will only have the answers to the odds in the back of the book, but you can go ahead and score those, and then we will grade the evens in class. Okay? Great.